The first time Elias saw Mira, she was standing on the wrong side of a protest line. It was raining, not dramatically, just enough to blur the edges of everything. She held a sign in trembling hands, her dark hair clinging to her face, her eyes unwavering despite the shouting around her. Elias stood across from her in a pressed uniform, his orders clear: hold the line, don't engage. But something about her felt familiar. Not her face, not her voice, he hadn't heard it yet, but the way she refused to step back, even as others did. Their eyes met. In that instant, the noise faded, the rain softened, the world narrowed to two people standing on opposite sides of something neither of them had built. "Why are you here?" he asked before he could stop himself. She blinked, surprised he'd spoken. "Because if I'm not, nothing changes." He almost laughed. He'd heard dozens of rehearsed slogans that day, but hers didn't sound like one. It sounded like truth. "And you?" she asked. "Why are you there?" Elias hesitated. "Because I was told to be." It wasn't a good answer. They both knew it. They met again by accident, or maybe not. A week later, in a quiet bookstore tucked between two crumbling buildings. Mira stood in the poetry aisle, flipping through a worn collection. "You always argue with strangers in the rain?" he asked. She looked up, startled, and then smiled. "Only the ones who look like they might listen." That was how it began. Their worlds were not meant to overlap. Elias lived by structure, duty, and rules that had been etched into him since he was a boy. Mira lived in questions, in defiance, in the belief that systems existed to be challenged. But somehow, between late-night conversations and stolen afternoons, they built something fragile and electric. They argued constantly about justice, about fear, about whether change came from within the system or by tearing it down. But beneath every disagreement was something deeper, an understanding neither of them could explain. They saw each other not as symbols or enemies, but as people, and that made everything dangerous. It didn't last. Love stories like theirs rarely do, at least not without cost. The city tightened its grip, protests grew harsher, lines became walls. Elias was given new orders: crack down harder, no exceptions. Mira became more visible, more vocal, a leader now whether she wanted to be or not. The day everything broke, Elias saw her again across a crowd, but this time there was no rain to soften the moment, just tension, fear, and inevitability. "Go home," he whispered when he finally reached her. "Please." "I can't," she said. "You know I can't." "I don't want to hurt you." "Then don't." It's not that simple. It never is. For a moment, it felt like the world paused, like it had that first day in the rain. Then someone shouted, someone pushed, and the moment shattered. Years passed. Cities change, people change, even pain softens eventually. Elias left the uniform behind. He never quite said why. Mira disappeared from the front lines, her voice fading into quieter, less visible work. They didn't see each other again, not until a morning that felt almost ordinary. A small cafe, sunlight through dusty windows, the kind of place where no one looks twice at anyone else. Elias was halfway through his coffee when he heard a familiar voice ordering tea. He froze. Some loves don't fade. They wait. Mira turned, cup in hand, and there he was, older, softer, but still him. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Then she smiled, just a little. "You still do what you're told." He shook his head. "Not any more." "Good." He stood, walking toward her slowly, like approaching something fragile and long lost. "Are you still trying to change the world?" he asked. She considered it. "Not all at once." "That sounds harder." "It is." A pause. Then, quietly, he said, "Do you think we could try again, without the lines between us?" Mira looked at him, not the uniform he used to wear, not the choices they couldn't undo, but the person he had become. "Maybe," she said, "if we're willing to meet in the middle this time." And for the first time they stood on the same side of something, not because the world had made it easy, but because they had chosen it.